Alrighty, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on My Doctor, and happy Mashuja Day to all of you watching us from wherever you are. Thank you so much, as always, for keeping us company. My name is Winnie Lubambe. So today, of course, being a holiday, we want to talk about something really easy, and that is on healthy eating. And of course, anyone who struggles with food and eating can fall into habits that may lead to what professionals call disordered eating. And of course, we don't want you to get there, all right? So today, we want to focus on healthy eating. What is it all about, and what does it entail in terms of what are you supposed to eat, what are you not supposed to eat, in terms of also the amount, does it matter? And if you have not been eating healthy, can you change that and start eating healthy? If so, how? All right, I know you have that and so many other questions in relation to healthy eating. Well, you want to stick around till the end of the show and get to understand more on the same. But as always, if you have any other question in relation to the same, please send us a text message on 40920, and of course we'll be answering your questions as soon as we get them, as far as healthy eating is concerned. And before we start the show, take a look at this video on healthy eating. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. It's really, really interesting how they make it look so easy as far as healthy eating is concerned. And we're just actually to find out how easy it can be to, and especially if you're used to, you know, taking unhealthy foods, how it can be easy or difficult to make the transition and start eating healthy. And like we said, welcome to the show. Just in case you're tuning in right now, you have not missed much. We're getting started. And our topic of discussion today is on healthy eating. So if you have any question in relation to the same, if you are struggling with the same, or if you want to make the transition and don't know how, then that is why we're here today, to answer all your questions as far as healthy eating is concerned and how you make the transition. So my guest is here, and her name is Josephine Mbudi, and of course she is a dietitian with 8 years of experience at the current hospital. Josephine, thank you so much for making time for us today. Really, really appreciate it. You've braced to the cold. And you're here, so karibu sana.
Thank you.
And that aspect of then healthy eating, because you see, when you talk to people, they will tell you, but I eat healthy. I try as much as possible and have proteins, have, you know, my vegetables, that is vitamins, and have a little bit of carbs. And we tend to think that's it, all right? So is there like so much to eat, or it's just as long as you maintain the three, you're perfect?
Okay, that's a good question, which I hear every other day. But for me, I usually ask someone, what is a healthy diet?
Yeah.
Because you see, a healthy diet, what constitutes it is basically it needs to promote health and nutrition.
All right.
Yes, you can be eating your protein, your carbohydrates, and your starches.
Yeah.
But also we look at what are the types of the protein that you're eating, the carbohydrates, because even chips is still part of carbohydrates, and it still have fat. But what is right eating? Other than looking, yes, at the healthy diet, but also you need also to ask yourself, am I eating right? And like we've seen in the video, right also signifies what are the types that you're eating, and also that the portion sizes that you're eating. But also like the same thing that the video has said, also it depends. With a lot of things. Because what I call healthy diet cannot be what you call healthy diet.
Absolutely.
Because there are other things that we have to look at. We have to look at your age. We have to look at your height. We have to look at your weight also, what we call BMI. But also we go above BMI. Also, what is your activity level? Because again, I can be eating a healthy diet, but maybe I'm taking in a lot of calories. And calories is basically the amount of energy in the food that you're consuming. So those are the things actually when you look at. So that's why we can be able, we have to sit down with somebody per individual and actually come up with a healthy diet.
Okay.
Yes.
I like that. And we'll go through them one by one on, and why it's important to consider that. Because you see, for most of us, let's say a friend of mine started properly on a certain diet and then it worked for her. I am also going to try the same, and forgetting that we're all different in terms of, you know, height, weight, our metabolism as well. All of them are very, very different. Okay. And from the video, something that I also got is the size of the plate. It really, really matters.
Yes.
Why? See, as long as I have food on it, that's it.
Remember, by the end of the day, different types of food will give you different amount of calories energy, but also different amount of nutrients. Because you see, by the end of the day, we don't want to underfeed you in terms of nutrients. We don't also want to overconsume the nutrients. Because by the end of the day, they still have an effect on your health. Because For example, vitamin A in children or even in adults. When you take too little, you start getting what we call diseases. But also when you take it much in excess, you get what we call hypervitaminosis A. And of course, there are also consequences on that. Because either way, whether you take too much or too little, you'll still end up in hospital, actually getting managed on the same.
All right.
So that's what we usually say.
Then it's difficult. I mean, like I said, from the video, they make it look so easy. Like the size of your plate and then the portions and, you know, they make it look so easy. But in real life, it's really hard. We try.
Yes, it is hard, it is difficult, but it is doable. It's
doable.
And you see, it's not, you don't just wake up one day and say that I'm going to eat a healthy diet from today. No,
true.
Because what happens is that you have to adjust slowly. The same way it took you time to be where you are, either unhealthy eating or maybe somewhere in between healthy and unhealthy. It also takes time for you to adjust. Remember, they're what you call cravings. They're what you call, the body takes also time for you to adjust.
True.
Yes, because it doesn't, because when you do something all of a sudden, your body can get into a shock. And it's actually worse than where you went to. Because also whatever you're eating, also by the end of the day, it affects you psychologically, it affects you emotionally. Because even the foods that you're eating also produces enzymes and all that. So that's why we usually say, take a step at a time.
I like
don't do everything like a crash program. No.
Yeah, but we tend to see a lot of people do that. And especially when they're sort of trying to lose weight for a certain event, want to fit in this particular dress. We do that crash program and we think this person actually lost, let's say, weight or gained weight in this very short amount of time. And we think that's healthy, but nah, it's not. It's not healthy. All right, and then something else that you mentioned is the calorie intake. And you see most of us, come on, how many times do you look at the foods that you eat and then how many calories does it have, or even measure? We see there's some people who measure their food now, but for a better part of the population, I would say we don't measure the food. As long as, again, we think it has carbs, proteins and vitamins, that's it, we're good to go. Why is it so important to think about the amount of calories that we take?
Everything you do, you have to think about it consciously. The same way you invest in money, you have to invest in your own health. Because I usually tell people, you can be busy making money today, but in the future you lose all that money on your health. Whatever you get in your old age is what you've invested in your younger years or in your early years. And that's what we usually say. Yes, it is difficult to measure. Funny enough, even I do not really just take a cup and keep on measuring and measuring. And that is why we make nutrition so simple nowadays. Like the plate rule. You don't have to keep on measuring. But as a rule of thumb, you have to know that if you're an adult, you're not maybe breastfeeding or you don't have a lot of the energy that you require. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, and that is if per day you do physical activities less than 20 minutes, that is sedentary lifestyle. Even going maybe to the toilet, okay? So what we usually say is that half of your plate needs to be veggies.
All right.
That way, by doing that, you've consciously reduced on the amount of carbs that you're taking in. And you see the carbs are the ones that have the highest form of energy after the fats. Because you see what happens is that we usually say that every fat, every carbohydrate, every sugars still give you different forms of energy. So you have to be conscious enough to actually measure in terms of your eyes, not necessarily whatever that you're
like
using.
A weighing scale or something like that. Okay, now can we then talk about the fundamentals? I know you mentioned, of course, things to do with age, weight, and all those things. Can we just go through them very quickly one by one? And then we'll talk about the unhealthy part so that we know the things that we've been doing wrong for a very long time. So let's start with age. And for age, I can say, can we start with the children? Because right now we see a lot of overweight children, we see a lot of obese children. And you talk to most of these families, they will tell you, sisi familia yetu ni watu wakubwa. So we're okay, all right? So can we start with the children and then of course transition into adulthood?
First of all, let me just start with genetics. What are the role of genetics in basically weight? What we usually say is that by the end of the day, you're what you eat. But also, we don't denote the genetics, but it only contributes to 20% of your weight, of the weight that you're supposed to be. So let's say, if, for example, by your height and weight, you're supposed to be 60%, then of course, you have to add maybe 120%. That's the role of genetics. But you see, most of the people go as far as saying obesity runs in the family, so you have to be obese. I've met people actually who are thin in the family, and they're in the family of obesity. But I think it's that laxity, whereby you know, we are big, so it naturally comes. Because even your parents who are big, also it is a reflective of actually what they ate in their early years. So what we usually say is that do not necessarily talk about genetics, because also the mind is a very powerful thing. If you tell yourself you can't do it, you can't do it. So, but of course, if you tell yourself you can do it, you can do it. But now we start with that. Fundamentals, very important. You have to take a balanced diet. Don't just do rice and beans. Okay.
I actually learned that beans is, I was shocked, because you see, this is something that we've grown up knowing, that you can have your rice and beans and a little bit of veggies and you're good to go. Come on, we've been eating carbs all along.
Yes, it's a combination of actually carbs and proteins. And that's why you find that people, in as much as they go to high school, that's the staple meal in high school, rice and beans. But of course, you see, at that age, again, there are hormones. And that is something also you need to consider. Because again, fat deposition. Okay, so you have to consider, am I actually depositing more fat or something like that? But because you see, in terms of age, you can't tell an adolescent do not eat, but actually they require more than you because they burn fat. And that is where the role of basically basal metabolic rate comes in. There are people actually who eat a lot and they're still thin. There are people
and you ask them where does all the weight go to.
Exactly. There are people who eat little, but yet they still remain overweight. And that is where you cannot actually exclude physical activities from actually healthy eating. It's a combination of the mind, that is basically psychologically. You have to think right, you have to eat right, and you have to do your physical activities. Okay? The other thing is basically diversity in basically the fundamentals. You cannot eat ugali skuma every single day. You'll get bored.
But there's some people who say they're okay with taking that every single day. Actually, we had this discussion with some of my coworkers just the other day, and they're like, me, I cannot take rice or pasta at night, because I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I am hungry. So I'll have to take ugali every single night. And there are others who are saying, me, I can take ugali in the morning, at lunchtime, and in the evening, every single day, and I'll be good.
What happens is that we usually say, yes, in as much as you can take your ugali, but remember also you can change whatever stew you're eating with, whatever vegetables you're eating it. Because different types of foods have different amounts of nutrients and different types of nutrients, which by the end of the day, you actually have to meet them, okay? So that's why we usually advocate for diversity, okay? In as much as portion sizes come in, but also diversity. But remember, we are living in a state of time whereby the economical, it's not that good in times of money. So we usually say is that you don't have to go and do meat all the time, okay? There are also cereals. You can actually do your cereals. You can actually do the beans. You can actually do the ndengu. You can actually do the lentils, which are actually easily affordable because even a cup of it, you can eat a whole family of even 5.
That's true.
But also there is also high biological value protein, like an egg. Okay, it's 10 bob. You only have to eat 3 eggs in a week if you're an adult. For children, it's different per age. Okay. There are also people who actually like omena, but also you remember actually culture plays a very important role. If you didn't grow up eating omena, then you will never eat it. You'll always stay away from it. But that is why even in healthy eating, you have to start introducing different types of meals slowly. Okay, and that was some of the few things about the fundamentals of a healthy eating. But also also when you're considering healthy eating, you also have to consider health. Do you have other conditions with you, like diabetes, hypertension? Also, it has to be incorporated in the diet that
You actually answered my next question, because I was like, so what if you have like a pre-existing condition? But okay. So then in terms of introducing, so when do you start introducing that aspect of healthy eating, and especially in children? Because children are very interesting. You know, some of these healthy foods that they don't like it. All right? And they prefer other ones that are very unhealthy. And you give them that and they will eat very, very well. You give them the healthy foods, they'll be like, it's not tasty, it doesn't look good, I do not like it, I will not take it, and it's a struggle for most parents. So when then do you introduce healthy eating in children? I
always say right from birth. You see, children are born knowing only two things, crying and breastfeeding.
Sure.
Every other thing is the guardian that
yes.
introduces.
Yeah.
So what happens is that you have to introduce a healthy diet early enough.
All right.
If you say there's no sugar, it's no sugar throughout. But remember, parents tend to be permissive.
Yeah.
Okay? We took sugar, even the kid needs to take sugar.
Yes.
But remember again, when this child knows the difference between tasty, sugary things and non-sugary things, they'll never eat the non-sugary things.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's why we usually say it starts right from complementary feeding. Whatever you give your child is what they will reflect in adulthood. And that's why you find that there are people actually, and especially the elder generation, they don't take sugar. It's not because they were told not to take sugar, but actually they grew up without these niceties of life, without actually oily foods, sugary things. And that is why the body is able to actually adjust. And your body only needs protein, carbohydrates, and the vegetables, the fats, the type of actually even oils and fats actually matters. And that's all. Anything else, the niceties, it is you as a parent, you as a teacher, because there are also schools that actually allow and actually give kids juice instead of actually milk and tea instead of actually milk. So it depends.
It depends.
It starts right from the from young age. Yes.
All right, because a friend of mine was telling me she knows of a family where they never introduced sugar and the children don't even know that sugar exists. So so I get what you're saying. It starts right from the So then, in terms of the meals, and we'll talk about pairing a little bit later.
Yes.
But then, how many meals is one supposed to take in a day? And which is like the most important, because we see people who say, I don't take breakfast. And then lunch, well, yeah, I can. Sometimes I miss. And then dinner, that is where we compensate for all the things that we missed since morning. So can we just talk about it? Because, we cannot stress this enough, because it's very, very important.
Yes.
So then what are we supposed to, how many meals in a day? Because there's also this argument where someone will say, but there's some people who cannot afford, let's say 3 meals in a day.
Yes.
Yeah, and they might end up skipping 1 meal and then compensating. Let's say if it's at night, they will compensate at night. So, but ideally, and according to nutrition, what is the right amount, or not amount, but the number of meals one should take in a day?
Okay, ideally, you're supposed to take 3 meals a day and 2 snacks, ideally. But also it varies depending with age, from small children to actually old age.
All right.
But you find that, yes, like you say, there are people who can't be able to afford those 3 meals and even those 2 snacks.
Yeah.
You find that somebody will forgo vegetables for maybe rice and beans. Somebody will forgo milk for school fees.
Yes.
Okay. So what happens is that if you can be able to afford the 3 meals a day, depending on the right portions, take them. But also by the end of the day, always consult a nutritionist if you're able to. Consult a nutritionist. Because there's so many fad diets out there. Because also there are people who take 1 meal a day, not because they cannot be able to afford it, but because they want to squeeze into that dress, but also maybe they don't want to get too overweight. But also, yes, like you've said, there's also in terms of health. If you have a disease that maybe does not allow you even, maybe you're taking those 2-3 meals a day, but also how much of the portion sizes are you getting? I'll get into many more. But also the ideal, the largest portion of the meal should be where your energy levels are the highest. And that is why, depending with the people, there are people who actually have different types of shifts. There are people who work at night and sleep during the day. But of course, the major population actually works during the day. So breakfast should actually be the heaviest, should actually be the heaviest. But you see, the African setting nowadays, because you actually are mimicking the modern lifestyle. Because even us, as you're going to school, we used to eat a huge meal. Because your mother doesn't know what you're going to eat at school. Okay, so breakfast should actually be the ideal. And you find that once you're full during breakfast, you're able to eat smaller portions during the day. But what we actually do is compensating at night, where your energy levels are the least. So what your body will is going to do is going to just basically store the extra energy in the food that you're not going to use. So keep on adding weight, and mostly for the women, the weight is usually accumulated around your waist area. So those are some of the things we usually advise.
And so then, and for the children, in terms of then, of course, introducing this, most people have a struggle, and especially during complementary and weaning, because they'll be like, me, I feed them when they cry, when they're hungry, and there are others, and there are others who have like a timetable where at, let's say, whatever time they wake up, at 10, at 1, at 3, around 4, and then at night. So that, like, for the children more so that we avoid cases of overweight and obesity even when they grow up. What is then the right way? Do we wait until they are hungry, or we feed them according to a number of hours?
Yes, we always advise feed them according to the number of hours. Because by the time a child is getting hungry, they've really gone past 3 hours. And what the child will tend to do, they'll tend to actually overeat, and they may tend even to vomit. Okay? What we usually say is that for children, which is actually a huge topic on that, what we usually say is that every 3 hours, by the time the 3rd hour is coming in, actually give the child something. Either it is food, whether it is porridge, whether it is basically a smoothie, a fruit, or something like that. Same way to adults.
Okay.
Teach yourself to feed per 12 hours, within 12 hours. If your breakfast is at 7, you must ensure that the other one is at 7. But remember, again, by the time you're getting home, it's 10. It's 11 because of the jam. So that's why we usually say, as much as possible, always have a lighter meal. Very light meal. That is more veggies and less of carbs. And of course, you have to balance even the protein. So that in the morning, then you can add on top of your breakfast, what you actually did not complete on your supper time. But you find that there are people who cannot be able to eat food in the morning. So that's why whatever you're eating as your starch, then that is what now we can be able to go around it and modify. And that is why we always encourage people, visit a nutritionist or somebody who's more professional in the areas of diet, either a nutritionist or a dietitian, so that you can sit down and actually draw a plan, a meal plan of how you can actually even portion your food sizes and what you can actually eat for breakfast, how many slices of bread, how many bars of Weetabix, and so on and so forth.
All right. I like that because the aspect of nutrition should be individualized. It's not like a one answer fits all.
Yes,
it should be individualized. All right then. So can we talk about how unhealthy eating patterns, of course, affects one person's health? Because I know they say you are what you eat. We don't consider that so much, but it's important. All right. So can we just first of all talk about these habits that sometimes we do, and they're very unhealthy, and we do not know. And then we can talk about how that it affects our health.
Unhealthy is wide, like we said, unhealthy on portion sizes. Even if you're taking healthy types of foods, you can take it unhealthily if you're taking too much. Okay. But again, the common one that we know is basically the type of food that you're actually eating. If you're supposed to be eating maybe rice, beans, and veggies, and you're very busy taking fries every lunch, for me, I usually say it is even better for you even to take a fruit salad than actually taking your fries every other day. And that is why you say unhealthy, actually going away from unhealthy foods, it's one step at a time. It's all about replacing. If you most of the time you're taking fries, there's a way actually you can minimize. You can actually buy fries, split it among two people, and maybe just take a fruit or take a salad if you have to take fries at the beginning of actually adjusting. So that's what we usually do. But then again, unhealthy again. What are the nutrients that you're getting? By the end of the day, women, of course, we need a lot of iron. But if you're taking chips every other time, where will actually get iron? And that's why you find that there are so many increasing issues about anemia. And then when you get pregnant, it becomes worse. You actually rely the anemia onto your child, and it goes on. Actually, nutrition is a cycle. What you feed will actually affect even your future generation. So you have to do things consciously. I'm eating like this for the sake of my child. Because my child, I want my child to be healthy. Because you don't want a child, every time you go for clinic, the nurse, the doctor, the nutrition is always on your case. Why is the baby not adding weight? Because again, even during breastfeeding, you're taking unhealthy foods. So yes, you're getting enough in terms of milk production, but what is the quality of also your milk? Okay, so even for the fundamentals, you have to ensure that by the end of the day, you're taking quality meals. Not only eating for the sake of eating because you're getting tired chewing, but also, again, quality food by the end of the day. What are the nutrients? Is it giving you enough calcium, enough magnesium for the bones, enough actually even vitamin D? Because nowadays we're not even actually sunbasking.
Nope.
We are not, because we are so much indoors in terms of work and everything. So we are not getting enough of everything. And later on, maybe you can talk about the issues of supplementation. Is it right? Is it necessary?
And we see that a lot, because people say, oh, well, yeah, I'm busy. I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I need to compensate in one way or the other. So that is when supplements come in. But yeah, like you said, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Then food pairing. Okay. So then, and yeah, because one of the nutritionists, I had a conversation some time back, was saying, you see, sometimes we tend to pair food the wrong way, and then of course digestion doesn't take place the way it's supposed to be, and then thinking that this is healthy because we have ensured, again, our plate has all those things, but then again, yes, they're right, but they're not right for each other in terms of their pairing. So then what do we do? What are like the do's and don'ts in terms of pairing our food?
The only way to know how you can pair your meals is to sit down with a nutritionist.
All right.
But also, as a rule of thumb, for example, in the African setting, there's this thing about eating like cereals. You need to actually pair up the legumes with actually cereals, like rice and beans. Okay. All right. Like ugali and maybe meats, and actually like that, because there's what we call actually competition. All right. Of absorption of nutrients. Okay. The same way in the jungle, animals have to compete for the fair
survival,
sharing. Even for you inside your body, there's what we call competing for nutrients, which is going to be absorbed more and all that. So in pairing, we have to ensure by the end of the day, in as much as you're eating meals, that they are being absorbed maximally. At least 80% of whatever you're eating, if not 100, because 100 is basically impossible. So that is what we usually say. So you have to basically see down. And then this business of basically eating food, and then you're eating maybe, you're drinking maybe a caffeinated drink, or maybe milk immediately after your meals. Of course, the milk has calcium, which calcium binds iron. So iron is not going to be absorbed as much as we would want to. The same way coffee, tea, they have tannins, caffeine, they actually do the same. They actually bind the iron and other nutrients. So by the end of the day, you're thinking, and I'm taking very high iron-rich foods. But so you're not getting it.
Okay. All right, so we need to take because I need to absorb that. So we need to take a very short break. But of course, when we come back, we'll also talk about that. So how then do you make the transition? Because like you said, if you do it, then instantly, of course, you end up shocking your body, which is not good. So we'll want to understand how. And then when are you supposed to eat? Are you supposed to eat when you're hungry, or are you supposed to eat regardless? So if you have any other question in relation to the same, please send us a text message on 40920. We'll be looking at your questions in just a bit, but for now, we're taking a very short break. See you right after.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Welcome back, or just in case you're joining us right now, today our focus is on healthy eating. We're learning a lot today, getting very, very useful insights as far as healthy eating is concerned. And if you have any question, like we said, feel free to send us a text message at 40920, and we'll be looking at them very, very shortly. But for now, that aspect of then when do you eat? And remember, of course, we have Josephine Mbidi, who is a dietitian at the current hospital with 8 years of practice. That's a long, long time, years of experience. And of course, the best person to answer all our questions as far as healthy eating is concerned. Now, talking about then when are we supposed to eat? Because again, and I think we had this discussion during break, where sometimes you just eat because you do not want to feel hungry, and you do not want to sort of like skip the hours that you're supposed to, so that at the end of the day you end up eating later than you're supposed to. So ideally, and according to nutrition, when are we supposed to eat? Are we supposed to eat only when we're hungry, or we're supposed to eat so that we do not get hungry?
Okay, there are so many controversies around it. But for us, we use scientific backend because we're in the clinical sector. Okay. So what we usually say is that, like I said before, you need to eat within 12 hours,
12 hours,
but also
yes.
you need to space your meals and your snacks 3 hourly.
3 hours, yes.
Okay. Why is this very important? Because by the time you're getting to become too hungry, two things will happen. Your mind will tell you, by the way, I need to compensate on this hunger. So what will I do? I'll eat above my portion, my normal portion sizes. And you see, it doesn't mean that then you're not going to get hungry in the next 3 hours.
Yes.
Because what happens is that there's specific amount of actually energy you're supposed to be eating within, consuming within a particular setting.
Yeah.
So if you're supposed to be consuming around 400 kilocalories and you've just done 600, what the body will do, it will just burn at that time what it needs to be burned, and it will store the rest.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean, you will still get hungry.
Yes.
In the next 3 hours, in the next 4 hours. But not really as much, but you're still going to get hungry.
Right.
So what I usually say is that you need to have a timetable, mental timetable for yourself.
Okay.
Because the more you eat if you show your body that you need to eat every 3 hours, then that means you'll never be very hungry. So you'll never get to overeat.
Yes.
So even that plate rule, those portion sizes will just be enough for you at that time.
Okay.
So that's what we usually say. So you need to actually have a culture of actually re-eating at the right time.
At the right time.
Yes.
But what about, because we all have different metabolic rates. There are others who is super slow
and others
super fast. Yeah. So do you also consider that?
Yes, we do consider that, and we also the hours don't change.
Okay.
It's the amount of the energy that you're eating at a
Okay.
setting that will change.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So don't say, I have a fast metabolism, so you end up eating
so many
so many
times.
times,
It actually means
in
that
a
you've not
day.
had enough in your previous meal.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And remember that aspect of it's all individualized. It's
Yes.
you according to your body, in terms of weight and all those things. And talking about weight, then can we say, or just give ranges?
Yes.
All different. In terms of, let's say, a certain weight, how much are you supposed to
weigh?
To weigh and all those things? Can we just talk about that? Because for us women, because we have different body types.
Yes.
And again, we tend to sort of just feed whatever it is working for, another person, forgetting that we're all different. So can we just talk about eating then for the different body
sizes.
types? Yes.
Actually, what happens, you only have two types in women. Let me just concentrate on women because women are so conscious about their weight.
Yes.
But even as nowadays, we are seeing a shift of the same in men.
Yeah.
Because, of course, alcohol and all those other things. But we have two body types. We have what we call the apple type, apple-shaped type. So this means is that you're depositing more fat on your upper body. What most people actually call the Kikuyu syndrome or the Wanjiro syndrome. Because in the Kikuyu culture, or basically the tribe, what happens is that they eat a lot of carbohydrates. So a lot of the energy from carbs is actually stored on the waistline, okay? And then also we have the Costerian figure, which we call the pear-shaped, okay? You can actually have both, irrespective of your tribe. You can actually have both, depending on the type of foods that you're eating, either in too much or basically too little. But what actually happens is that comes actually on the BMI. So what are the normal BMI? For an adult, for children it's different. We actually check on the age, BMI for age or weight and length. But the normal BMI is between 18.5 to actually 24.9. And how we calculate it is that you take your weight in kilograms and you divide it in your height in meters squared. So for example, let's say for example your weight is 53 kilograms and your height is 150. So you take 53, you divide it by 1.5 and you divide it again by 1.5. Whatever you get, then now go to the chart. If you're between 18.4 or 18.6 to 24.9, that is the normal.
You're on the normal range.
If you're between 25 and actually 29.9, that is overweight. But anything above 30 is obese. But we have three classifications of obese. There is what we call the moderate obese, mildly obese, and extremely obese, which is BMI over 40.
Wow.
Okay? And we have people who have even a BMI over 50. Okay, but also another thing we consider is your fat distribution. Okay, like the way we've said apple or waist and hip circumference or the hip ratio. But again, we have what we call the body fat. Okay, there are people, there's this notion, I have heavier bones. No, this is just fat. And we have different actually equipments that we use. Like now we measure for the fat. We usually use the body fat monitor, whereby we actually use your age, we use your height, we use your weight, so that you can come up with a percentage of it. Okay. Because
required or what you have
required.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So that now we can put you on actually a scale. So you can actually be normal BMI, but your percentage of fat are higher. So now we work towards reducing these fat percentages. Okay. And then again we have what we call the bust sizes. You find that there are people actually who have a slender body, but actually the bust size is too big. Sometimes it actually needs even surgery, because sometimes it affects even the back. But yes, it may not have, it may not be what you're eating, but remember, by the end of the day, it will still have a reflection on your BMI and also your image. So all these things, we actually have to sit down with a nutritionist, sit down also with a consultant. We see, is it giving you back issues? How can we actually adjust the sizes? Okay? And so on and so on.
Wow.
Yes.
Hey, okay. Then, so, and back to, because you see sometimes the things it's beyond your control. Like, for instance, you know, aspect of bust, you know, and all those things. It's not per se what you did to induce that, but again, has a reflection on the same. So then, suppose we, of course, have grown up with that culture. We know as we eat this particular food, we do not eat this, and all those things. How then do we make the shift so that we do not shock the body?
Exactly.
At the same time. So just give us some of the steps or tips in terms of just making the shift, because at the end of the day, you have to be your optimum. You know, health.
By the end of the day, we have to be conscious to your preferences. We have vegetarians who are vegans, maybe because of ethnicity, or maybe because of culture, or maybe because of religion. And we cannot force them. We cannot. The same way there are people who actually donate blood, some do not. We cannot force them, okay? But what we actually tell them is now have a diversity, and that is where supplements come in. Because you're not able, a vegan is not able to eat all the nutrients on plant proteins, on plant-based only. So we have to supplement. And then again, we usually say, do not just go and supplement, because Mary is supplementing, let me just supplement.
Supplement as well,
So you have to sit down with a doctor on that. But again, we have what we call slow introduction to these foods. Sometimes it's just, we are just fearing things that are not there. It's not because that your body will get into a shock. It's only because your tongue is not used to the different taste. So what I usually advise is that don't go and buy huge amounts. Do this, buy them in small quantities. Maybe go to a restaurant, actually order. Maybe let's say, for example, you've not been taking chicken or even fish. Most people actually do not pick fish, omena and the like. So order maybe a fish fillet, a small one. Just go with somebody who eats fish, so that if you don't like the taste, you can actually give it out and order something else. And that is what we usually do, slow introduction. But again, do not just chew it very fast. Chew it slowly, so that your taste buds can be able actually to have, to actually familiarize themselves with actually the meals that you're taking. But actually it basically takes a mindset, change of mindset. Just shift it.
And you talked about that, and I remember one was saying they've never ate like omenas before, and they're like, when I ate them, because nanikata mdomo, so I do not like them. So again, aspect of just chew slowly, introduce it so that your taste buds gets used to it. But still on the same, there are some people who just eat fast naturally. Then they just eat fast, and there are others who eat slow. Does that impact or has an impact in terms of either gaining weight? Digestion, gaining weight, losing weight, and all those things.
Yes, it does. Because you see, we've talked about proteins, carbohydrates, vegetables. Digestion of carbohydrates starts from the mouth because of the saliva, okay? So when you eat fast, what happens? They're not able to be broken down to actually smaller pieces for absorption. So the body, what will be able to do, once it goes to the stomach, it either takes longer to be digested, or even if it will, not all of it will be. So some of it actually will be stored. And that is why we usually say, do not eat while doing something else. While watching TV, while on your phone, which nowadays we usually do. Because there are two things that come in. The mind has to be focused on the food you're eating. And that is why actually you can take a huge bucket of popcorns when you're watching a movie. But you cannot take the same when you're just sitting down in a quiet room. You cannot do that. So you have to actually be conscious of what you're doing. Okay? So that also, even if it's chewing, you need to chew food slowly. That way, you will not overfeed. Because the mind will be able, actually the brain will be able to release a hormone that will tell you you're now full. Stop eating. But when you're doing something else, there's that disconnection between I am full, stop eating. Because what you're doing, you're entertaining yourself. So the body, your mindset is so busy entertaining itself than entertaining itself with food. Okay? So you'll actually, and that is why you find that if you're watching TV, you actually get a second helping. Okay? But if you're just sitting down, because actually there are most people actually who find eating boring. So they have to entertain themselves with something else. But because we are now in a culture of entertainment, a culture of I have to occupy myself with electronics so that I can actually reduce on the time.
The concentration on gas.
Exactly. So we actually discourage that.
So then that makes sense, then aspect of, that is why there are dining tables and sitting area. Makes sense now, but we're all guilty. We are all guilty.
Even
because,
I sometimes.
you have to watch, I mean, you have to do something, multitask, because it's a very busy world and we're busy, but that is wrong. Okay, and in terms of then making the shift, there's some people who would say, I am completely cutting down on, let's say, carbs, or I am completely cutting down on proteins and focusing on, something else. Yeah. Is that right in terms of then making the shift? Because we want to train the body to adjust very, very fast to sort of like a no-carb type of diet. So we completely cut it off. Is that right? Or, I mean, because would say, and especially for something like beans, remember we said it has some aspect of carbs and
stretches and all that.
So someone would be like, I do not want to sort of eat rice completely or ugali or whatever and then focus on, let's say, beans and veggies because that has carbs, it has proteins, and then I'll have my vitamins from the veggies. Is that right?
That's a good question. We have had it over and over again in my 8 years of practice. What happens is this. God created every type of food to give you different types of sense. Carbs give you energy, but also it gives you specific nutrients, like the B vitamins are more in the carbs than they are in the veggies. So what we usually say in terms of actually transiting to a healthy diet, it's not about exclusion, but replacement. Okay? You cannot just wake up and exclude carbs. Don't. What we usually say is that replacing. If you're doing more of chips, then replace it within the same food group, which is carbs, a healthier option. Like ugali, like rice, okay? Like maybe, for example, potatoes, tubers, and the like. And also the whole idea is shifting from processed foods to non-processed foods as much as you say. And I'll hear about, no, I can, the processed foods are easily available. But remember, again, you do go to the market to shop for your groceries. They're also non-processed. There's maize, there's flour. Non-processed flour actually in the market, there's actually tubers. Like I said, it's all about the mind. If you're not used to taking non-processed, then you'll always take processed. So it's about replacing the non-healthy with the healthy types of foods.
Okay. All right. And then in terms of the preparation of the food, because people will be like, okay, fine, I'm not taking the processed. But then again, when the way you're making it yourself at home may end up being worse than the process. So then what is like the procedure for preparing the foods so that we try as much as possible and eat healthy, but then still maintain, or the food would still have the amount of nutrition it's supposed to have?
Wow. good. Cooking methods.
Okay.
And whatever you add in
to
while
it.
you're cooking.
Okay. All right.
Add in, like let's say for example, oil. They're what we call in layterms language, the bad fats and the good fats.
Yeah.
Or the good oils. So if you're cooking healthy foods, but using the bad fats, by the end of the day, it will reflect on your health in terms of cholesterol.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to have education on what are the good fats, what are the oily fats, okay? Because the good fats are basically the vegetable oils, okay? The corn oils, the sunflower oils, okay? For those other types. But also we have the trans fats. Most of us, we actually use the trans fats in basically cooking our food. So what happened? Unhealthy eating.
Yeah.
But again, overcooking foods, we are actually culprits in that.
Yes.
You find that, for example, the greens, you've actually chopped your greens, which should actually be the last thing that you're cooking. But you find that people first cook the veggies and then the ugali.
The ugali later.
Okay. But then you find that vegetables have what we call the water-soluble vitamins. So if you cook them as the first one, and you just, maybe they've just cooked and then you just cover
it.
Remember, the cooking process is continuing.
Still continues, yeah.
So by the time you're cooking, you're eating the veggies, they're brown in color, okay? Or maybe you've not even covered the vegetables. So or basically the nutrients are dissolving in the water and actually evaporating. So basically what you're doing is that you're reducing the amount of nutrients that you'll have by the end of your meal.
Wow, okay.
And then again, in terms of, even if the cereals, sometimes you overboil the cereals because you just want them to be very soft. Again, the amount of nutrients you're getting by the end of the day. So of course, every food has a time period where you're supposed to be actually cooking them. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Hey, so this means that all of us needs to see nutritionists because we have been doing things the wrong way for a very, very long time. And talking about then the oils, the good ones and the bad ones, some people would say, you see, the good ones are a little bit expensive. I mean, sunflower, corn oil and all those things, they are very expensive. There's some people who cannot afford them.
That.
Are there alternatives for the same?
Like I said, there's no alternative.
There's no alternative.
But there's what you call counter-effect measures.
Yes. Yeah.
You see what happens, take for example cholesterol. When you're managing cholesterol or when you're actually preventing yourself from having a high cholesterol, what we actually advise, oils is part of it. But remember there's exercises. If you cannot be able to afford this, then you have to ensure by the end of the day you're doing exercise, you're walking. We are walking, there's jam. You can walk for 30 minutes.
Yes.
Okay? Every day. You can actually consciously tell yourself 30 minutes. If let's say for example, you're going to line up to actually take a matatu, then just take the longest route because either way you'll still line up.
You'll still line up, yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
That is one of it. And then also vegetables are high in fiber, which actually have what we call the antioxidants. Antioxidants will actually counteract the effects of the bad fats. You understand? So that is why they still have to get education by the end of the day. If I can't do if I cannot be able to afford fish every day, what then can I eat? Omena is cheaper. Okay? If I cannot be able to afford meat every day, of which, of course, you're not supposed to eat meat every day, thrice a week. But also there's lentils, much cheaper. There's ndengu, much cheaper. Okay? So that is what you're supposed to. And what I usually tell people, if you have a fridge, always buying foods in bulk is cheaper.
It's way cheaper, you're right.
Cheaper. Instead of buying a kg of cereals every week, buy 5 kgs. Just store it in a cool, dry place. You don't have, because of also the issues about electricity, or maybe you don't have a fridge, you don't have to keep on boiling them every day, but just boil a little when you cannot be able to. And that is why there are good techniques nowadays, like the pressure cooker. It's able to actually cook food within a short time. But also, again, it actually preserves the nutrients. Because it's actually heating things in a vacuum, which actually preserves nutrients. Drying of fish, the old time traditional ways of preserving, they still apply even now. But people will say, I don't have time to do that. But like I said, if you don't have time now, diseases will have time for you.
Later on. All right. And then there's this other thing that we almost all of us do, and that is waking up in the middle of the night to eat. And most of the time, we will not eat the healthier option. Yeah, we will just whatever we find because we're hungry at the time. First of all, can we talk about why this happens? Is it because we have not had enough, let's say for dinner, or it's just again the mind thinking that if I eat certain type of food, then I will be very hungry in the middle of the night, and I will have to wake up and I will have to eat something.
Good. Insomnia is part of it.
Yeah.
If you take longer before sleeping, then you'll have to snack something after supper. That is one. Another thing is your mindset. If you say that I just store these snacks at home just in case I'll wake up at night. For sure you'll wake up at night. Don't store those things. If you have to wake up in the middle of the night, because there are those times of the months, like women actually have those hormonal surges, then always store the healthier snacks. And what are the healthier snacks? Veggies. Veggies, and especially the starch, like we've said, the cucumber, the carrots, and that you can be able actually to snack in. But also we have fruits. They're cheaper, like banana, 5 bob. You can be able actually to store it up. So that when you wake up in the middle of the night, there's no cake to bite on, there's no chocolate to bite on. There's actually the banana to bite on. But also, like we said, how do you transit from the unhealthy practices, dietary practices, to the healthier ones? If you're too hooked to something, like I have to eat biscuits every day, I have to eat chips every day. What you do, always buy the smallest portions. If it's a cake, kindly do not go and just buy the cake, the 150 bob, whole thing. Buy the queen cake. And the smaller muffin, the smallest of every craving that you have, always do the smallest. That way, you keep on cutting down until whereby your taste buds are going to actually change. From the unhealthy taste, let's say for example the cakes, to now having to actually get to know, vegetables actually taste better because they have their own natural sugars. That's what you're supposed to do. But again, what you are is what you eat, dependent. If you have, let's say for example, a psychological disorder, and nowadays it's on the rise, and some of us are unable actually to say, for real, I have stress, because we live in a stressful world. You have targets to meet, so it's stressing you out. So we have the feel-good hormone. The more you eat this snacks, the more you feel good. So the more you tend to eat these snacks. So you will lay awake at night, and some of us do not actually sleep deep because of these stresses. So you'll actually sleep lightly. If you sleep lightly, for sure you're going to wake up in the middle of the night. If you're not going to actually relieve yourself to the loo, then if it's hunger that has woken up you up, then it means you're sleeping lightly. So you need actually to see what are some of the things that I'm not doing right. If you eat too much sugar at night, for sure, that energy is going to be broken down so fast. So in the middle of the night, you'll have to wake up to compensate for the energy issues. So that is why you have to eat more vegetables than carbs at night.
And plus they're filling. I mean, most people think veggies are not filling, but they are very filling. And then so as we finish, because we have like a minute or so to go, then because you mentioned something to do with cravings. First of all, is it normal? Or does it mean that you're lacking something? And what are some of the ways that we can do to sort of like curb aspects of cravings? And especially when it is more directed towards unhealthy things that we crave for.
Wow. Like I say, there are so many theories surrounding it. But this is what we usually say. Whatever you lack, you tend to compensate it with something else. When you're pregnant, for example, because that's when all the cravings are there. It's not about for you to take pica. Pica are basically what you call non-food items, like stones, like those soil things. Like people say that if you take soil, then that means you lack iron. If you take the soil, the stone, it means you lack calcium. But remember again, if you're not supplementing, every time there's a need and you're not able to meet the need, you have to supplement it. Either dietary, if dietary is not meeting it, maybe for example in pregnancy, and that is why we supplement. We have to take the supplements whenever you're actually breastfeeding and when you're pregnant. But most people do not take supplements when they're breastfeeding. And then again, when you have cravings, sometimes it's psychological, sometimes it's not. Because if you start taking the sugary things, the body now will start adjusting to the feel-good hormone. Every time you take sugar, you'll start feeling nice. So today you'll start with 1 scoop of sugar. Tomorrow, by the end of the year, it will even be 3. And it will be so hard for you to stop. And that's why I usually say, even for diabetes, we don't just wake up and stop sugar. You have, if you are doing 3 scoops today, you do 2.5 tomorrow. You do 2 like that. Because it's supposed to be a gradual process. Because if you just wake up and just do a crash program on everything, I'm telling you, you'll go back worse than where you were starting. So you have to check what is making me having these cravings. Is it because when I'm walking to go home, I pass by somewhere there is so much food, fast food joints, or where there are cake centers and they are calling you in quotes. So you have to actually, because your environment also play a very major role on that.
Understand what gives you the cravings. And on that note, we have to end the show. Josephine, thank you so much for coming by today and of course helping us understand more on, you know, healthy eating and how to make the shift, because that aspect is very, very important, making the shift, you know, towards healthy eating. And of course, thank you so much for staying with us as well until the end of the show. I believe you've learned a lot as far as healthy eating is concerned. My name is Winnie Lubembe. On behalf of everybody else who put together the show, we wish you a lovely day ahead. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, for another episode of My Doctor. But for now, it's a goodbye. Stay safe and stay warm. Goodbye.